Today I'm going to show you how to make turkey noodle soup completely from scratch, including the noodles. In my last video, I showed you how to smoke a turkey, and we're taking all of the parts that we didn't use for that, and we're going to make it into an amazing turkey noodle soup. That way we don't waste any of the bird and can put everything to good use. First, take all the parts that most people throw away, and that is the neck and the gizzard. Then add the rest of the turkey carcass. I always like to add some veggies to the stock, and usually that's some carrots, a whole onion, followed by some garlic. Then add enough water to cover it. Add the lid and set the stove to low so that way the stock will just barely simmer and result in the best broth. Now it won't be clear, but it will be delicious. Then it's time to wait for 6 to 8 hours of simmering before you strain out all of the solids. I roasted the chicken thighs and the wings in a 375 Fahrenheit oven for about an hour. And yes, use the oven. Turkey noodle soup should not be smoky. You know that they're done when they reach 175 degrees Fahrenheit. Whenever you're making turkey noodle soup, everybody knows the most important thing that you do is the noodles. If you can't make them from scratch, go ahead and use egg noodles. They're almost as good. You're just going to end up cooking them a little bit longer than you would the fresh ones. To make the pasta dough, you will need 2 cups of flour, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and then give it a quick mix to get the salt distributed just a little bit better. Then add 3 eggs before mixing it all together. At this point, you're probably going to get a really shaggy dough. So if it doesn't come together, you can add a tablespoon of water. The dough should start coming together at that point, but if it doesn't, or if it's really stiff, add just a little bit more water, maybe a teaspoon at a time. Knead the pasta dough for 4 or 5 minutes, and you'll notice that it starts to get a little smoother. At this point, the gluten in the dough would fight you if you tried to roll it out into pasta. So we're going to wrap it up in plastic wrap and let it sit on the counter for 20 minutes to rest. That will give us some time to put the rest of the soup together. I sauteed half an onion in a bit of olive oil before adding the turkey broth you saw me make at the beginning of the video. And I left it in the fridge overnight and it gelled, which is an excellent sign of a good broth, but it makes it pretty difficult to pour. Then add whatever veggies you like. I like thinly sliced potatoes, and Mrs. GTE demanded roasted carrots and mushrooms, and I was not going to tell her no. At this point, the pasta is rested enough to roll out, and I'm using a fancy cordless pasta roller that's actually pretty inexpensive. You roll out the pasta noodle dough thinner and thinner until it's the thickness you like, but just keep in mind that they're going to swell up a bit when you cook them. Then use the wide pasta cutter attachment for the best noodles. Lay them out on the counter or the cutting board and cut them to length. I prefer about 4 inches or about 10 centimeters. Then just set them aside until the end of the cook. I added the roast carrots, which are only half cooked so that way I could finish in the soup, and I quickly learned my lesson after splashing things everywhere. Then I added the potatoes, since both the carrots and the potatoes will take the longest to cook. The broth wasn't salted before, so add 2 or 3 tablespoons of salt. This ends up being about a gallon of soup, so that really isn't that much. Then add the noodles and let them cook for about 5 minutes. If using dry noodles, you'll want to add them a little bit earlier with the potatoes and cook according to the package directions. Add the roasted mushrooms and then the roasted turkey. As soon as you've done that, take it immediately off the heat, and this turkey noodle soup is done. The best part is you made enough to freeze for another day.